Chandu was 58 years old, retired from his engineering job at Boeing after 32 dedicated years, and now living in a modest but comfortable house on the edge of Bellevue, just outside Seattle, Washington. The Pacific Northwest suited his quiet nature. The constant soft rain against the windows, the deep green of the evergreens that surrounded his neighborhood, the occasional glimpse of the Cascades on clear days. His days followed a gentle rhythm. Morning coffee from the same independent roaster on Main Street, a walk along the Sammamish River Trail where he watched joggers and dog walkers pass by, afternoons spent reading history books or tinkering with small woodworking projects in his garage. Divorce had come 10 years earlier, amicable but final, leaving him with no children and a sense of peaceful independence he had grown to cherish. He told himself romance was a chapter long closed. Women his age were busy with grandchildren or new careers, and younger ones barely noticed a silver-haired man in a flannel shirt and hiking boots. He felt content, mostly, until the small, nagging moments began to accumulate, moments that made him wonder if he had become truly invisible. It started one crisp October afternoon in 2024 at Third Place Books in Lake Forest Park. Chandu was browsing the travel section, flipping through a book about the Patagonia trails, when a woman nearby reached for the same volume. She was in her early 50s, with shoulder-length auburn hair streaked with silver, wearing a soft green sweater and glasses that slipped slightly down her nose when she smiled. Her name was Laura. She mentioned she ran a small graphic design business from home and loved books that promised escape. They talked easily about Iceland's black sand beaches, the best rainy day reading spots in Seattle, how the city's coffee culture had spoiled them both for anything else. The conversation felt effortless, like two people who had known each other longer than 20 minutes. Then, as they moved toward the cafe counter together, Laura tilted her head slightly and asked in a casual, almost offhand tone, "Do you spend a lot of time alone these days?" Chandu paused for half a second, then answered the way he always did. Honest, straightforward, a little self-deprecating. "Yeah, pretty much. I've gotten used to it. Peaceful, you know? No drama." He chuckled lightly, expecting her to laugh too. Instead, her smile remained polite, warm but suddenly distant, like a door that had been cracked open and then gently closed again. They ordered their coffees, chatted a few more minutes about nothing in particular, and when they said goodbye in the parking lot, she gave a friendly wave and drove away. Chandu stood there in the drizzle, keys in hand, feeling an odd pang he couldn't quite place. Had he said something wrong? He replayed the moment on the drive home, but dismissed it. Small talk, nothing more. 3 months later, in January, he attended a community wine tasting event at a small vineyard in Woodinville, organized by the local retirees' social club he had joined on a whim. The room was warm with candlelight and the scent of Pinot Noir. He ended up next to Jessica, 49, a middle school history teacher with bright hazel eyes, a quick laugh, and stories about her students that made everyone around her smile. They bonded over a shared love of old vinyl records and weekend hikes. She recommended a trail near Snoqualmie Falls he hadn't tried yet. Midway through the evening, as they stood by the bar refilling their glasses, she looked at him with that same gentle curiosity and asked, "Are you usually on your own? Or do you have a lot of people around these days?" Again, Chandu gave the same answer he always gave. "Mostly on my own. I like my routines. Hiking, reading, keeping things simple." He said it lightly, thinking it sounded independent, mature. Jessica nodded, smiled, but the energy shifted almost imperceptibly. She turned to greet another friend who approached, and though they exchanged numbers before leaving, the follow-up texts never materialized beyond a polite, "Nice meeting you." Chandu stared at his phone for a week, then let it go. But the pattern was starting to itch at him. Twice now, the same kind of question, the same polite retreat. Spring arrived slowly, as it does in the Northwest, with longer days and the first bursts of cherry blossoms along the streets. Chandu kept his routine: early walks, coffee, occasional meetups. One Sunday in April, he drove to Marymore Park for an outdoor bluegrass concert series the city hosted every year. The grass was still damp from morning rain, but the sun broke through, turning everything golden. He found a spot near the back, spread out a blanket, and settled in with a thermos of tea. A woman sat down a respectful distance away. Emily, 52, retired nurse, silver hair cut short and practical, a calm presence that reminded him of still water. She carried a small folding chair and a book she set aside when the music started. During the intermission, they struck up conversation. She loved live music because it reminded her of road trips in her 20s. He shared how he'd once driven the entire Olympic Peninsula loop in one long weekend. The talk flowed naturally, comfortably. Then, during a quieter song, she turned to him and asked softly, "Do you spend much time alone?" This time, Chandu felt something click. Instead of his usual reflex answer, he paused, met her eyes, and spoke more deliberately. "I've come to appreciate my own space over the years. It's given me a lot of clarity and calm. But I'm always open to sharing good moments with the right company." He kept his tone steady, warm, not eager, not closed. Emily's expression changed. Her eyes softened, her shoulders relaxed, and she leaned just a fraction closer. "That's a nice way to put it," she said quietly. "Most people either sound lonely or like they've built a fortress." The concert continued, but the air between them felt different now, lighter, charged with possibility. As the final notes faded and people began packing up, they walked slowly toward the parking lot under strings of fairy lights strung between the trees. Emily glanced at him and asked the second question, almost as if testing the water again. "What are you looking for these days?" Chandu had thought about this one too, in the quiet weeks since the bookstore and the wine tasting. He answered without hesitation, voice calm and clear. "I'm focusing on building a simpler, stronger chapter now. Real connections, meaningful experiences, time with people who truly matter. Nothing forced, just what feels natural and good." He didn't overshare, didn't ramble. He simply stated his direction. Emily stopped walking for a moment, looked at him fully, and smiled. A real, unguarded smile. "That sounds exactly like where I'm trying to be too," she said. They exchanged numbers right there under the lights. The next week, they met for coffee at a little place overlooking Lake Washington, then a walk along the waterfront in Kirkland, then dinner at a quiet Italian spot in Issaquah. Conversations stretched late, about past mistakes, dreams they'd shelved, the way the rain made everything feel cleaner. Emily told him she had spent years caring for others and was finally learning to care for herself. Chandu admitted he'd spent too long assuming solitude was the only safe option. Months passed. Summer brought long evenings on the deck with glasses of local wine, watching the sun set behind the Olympics. Fall returned with hikes through golden forests near Snoqualmie Pass. Winter arrived with cozy nights by the fireplace, in her small house or his, sharing stories and silence that felt full instead of empty. Chandu realized, slowly and deeply, what he had almost missed forever. Those two questions weren't random small talk. They were quiet invitations, the way many women, especially women drawn to a man who carried the steadiness that comes with age, signaled interest without risking rejection or seeming forward. "Do you spend a lot of time alone?" was her way of asking if there was emotional space, if his world had room for someone new without upheaval. "What are you looking for these days?" was her way of checking for direction, for purpose, for the inner anchor that made closeness feel safe instead of chaotic. He learned that answering literally, "Yes, I'm alone a lot," sounded like a closed door. Answering vaguely or weakly, I don't know, just taking it easy, felt like drifting. But answering with calm, grounded openness, I value my independence, but I'm open to meaningful company, and with clear direction. I'm building a life with real connection and intention. Created a bridge she could step onto without fear. By the following spring, Chandu and Emily had settled into something steady and warm. Not flashy or rushed, but real. They still took separate hikes sometimes, still enjoyed quiet evenings alone with books, but they also planned trips, a weekend in Leavenworth, a drive up to the San Juan Islands. He no longer felt invisible. He felt seen. And in being seen, he saw the world differently. Women didn't need grand gestures or youthful energy from a man over 50. They needed presence, awareness, the quiet strength to recognize a subtle opening and step through it with calm certainty. Chandu never missed those questions again. Whenever a new conversation brought one, or both, he smiled inside, answered from that place of grounded clarity, and let the moment unfold naturally. Life in the Pacific Northwest rolled on. Rainy mornings, mountain views, ferry rides across the Sound, and in the peaceful corners of it, at 59 now, Chandu discovered that some of the best chapters are the ones written later, when you finally know how to listen for the quiet invitations that were there all along.